Put that there. That way we know these two screws are going right back in to this stock differential. And I'm going to go ahead and pull this differential out completely. So, here's your differential here, guys. This is what a rear diff looks like in a losi 5B. This is a stock rear diff. Nothing's done to it. Now, if we go and one of the main things you're going to want to do too about a rear diff is you're always going to want to inspect it. Always double check your drive cups to make sure that your casing is not cracked. So I'm actually going and doing that right now. Looks pretty good though. Actually, whoever had this prior from me actually looks like they took care of it. Looks like they serviced it pretty well. So I'm definitely thankful for that. So this one looks pretty good, but we're still going to change out the fluid in this. So we're actually still got to pull this nice diff apart. So what we're going to do, you look here too, there's your pinion. Your pinion's right there, span connected to your drive shaft, so you know your bearings aren't binding up or anything, so that's another good thing. There's a little bit of dirt in there if you want to take maybe an air compressor or something, or this time you can maybe use a microfiber just to clean it out, maybe a little can of air, spray out that dirt and everything. It'd be a good time to do it. But again, like I said, I'm not using this case, so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to actually pull the pinion out of this one. I'm going to pull the bearing out of this one as well. And I'm also going to swap over the inner bearings and outer bearing as well to the new Team Hoonage case that I showed you guys. So, the first thing I'm going to do though, I'm going to set this guy aside. And what you're going to do here, guys, let me grab a quick microfiber here for you guys real fast. It's always good to have one of these on hand. You can use them for many things. You can get them in a pack, cheap store, real quick. They make smaller ones as well. I like using the kind of bigger ones. It makes things a little bit easier. So, first thing you're going to notice, there's a lot of sand built up in that bearing. That's all dirt. That's all sand. Okay? Same thing for that side. That's all dirt. That's all sand. So we're going to take our microfiber, just kind of clean all that sand and all that dirt out and that nastiness. You don't want any of that going in your new rear diff, especially if you're using a nice billet diff case from, you know, Team Hoonage, and or if you're just using a billet diff case in general. Maybe you're doing an RC Max one, maybe anything of the sort. You don't want any of this dirt and grime and just nastiness going in your new build that you're doing. So it's always a good idea to take, you know, like the 5 minutes extra and clean what you plan on putting into your differential case. That goes for anything. If you're putting a motor on a new chassis, it's a good idea to clean it up. Anything of the sort like that. So, and you can see right here, keep in mind guys, I only wiped this like maybe not what, 5 minutes, if that. Look how much cleaner that is. Cleaned off all that dirt, all that grime, all that grease spilled up, all that dirt and sand that was on there. I'm guessing maybe this guy ran a lot in the dirt. He might have ran a lot maybe at the beach. You know, he put some paddle tires on maybe. I can't say for certain because I'm not the previous owner, but you know, I can say what I see, which as you can see, that's a lot of sand buildup right there. So there's a lot of sand buildup, a lot of dirt buildup in that. So you definitely want to, you know, really go through and clean that. Another thing I'm going to teach you guys, you're going to pull the bearing off. So you can actually pull it off like that, okay? And you're going to actually, if you look at this one's not that bad, but usually if somebody goes to run these real hard and they don't service the rear diff, they build up a lot of rust. And the bearing cup here actually gets so built up with rust that, believe it or not, it does not want to even sit right in the differential casing. Now, keep in mind that when you do take these off, they only go in one way. You can, though, put one of the cups on the side of where the bearing meets on the wrong side of the differential casing. So let's say if you go to put this one on the left side, well, it's supposed to go on the right side, and you have to do it vice versa. It's not going to work. So you're just, it's not going to happen. It's not going to work. It's not going to mount in. So then you're screwed, and you pretty much have to take everything back apart. And then you're just letting it slam your head because you gotta take everything back apart. And then you're just like, no! So, don't mind my crazy for action faces. Yeah. So you definitely don't want to do that, guys. So, always keep in mind of which side you took it off. These ones, like I said, they are not that bad. I have ran into diff cups where they were solid rust. Now, if they are solid rust, okay, what you can do is just take your little, you can either take a little bit of 180 grit, or if you don't want to do that, you can use a very fine steel wool called 000. You can do that, or you can use the emery cloth. And I usually try not to use the steel wool because it leaves material, it leaves a little bit of metal particles, stuff like that, and that can get in your rear differential, and you definitely don't want that. So I usually use a little bit of just 180 sandpaper, just very lightly, not a lot, because you can sand it down too much. You can get rid of the shape it needs, you can get rid of the circumference of where it sits into the rear diff, and it will become very loose. You don't want to do any of that. So if you don't feel safe with that, though, you can use the emery cloth. You can pick them up anywhere. You can pick them up at your local auto parts store. You can pick them up, I think the dollar store even sells them sometimes, depending on which one you go to. So it all depends on where you live, where your location is. But I usually find them at the auto parts store. I want to say they're about $5 where I'm at. I'm in Michigan, so I imagine they're not too much other places. But if they are, it's just a good thing to keep around anyways. You're working on your motor, working on metal parts. You can clean them up real fast, real nice, shine them up. If you want to go through and polish them, you can. You don't have to. It's kind of a step you don't have to do. If it's something that you're seeing, maybe like a nice custom billet piece, aluminum piece, or something that was rusted and you're kind of fixing it and going through it, then you could polish it up, make it look nice, get the scratches out, stuff like that. But if you're doing something with like these, there's no problem with just, taking a little bit of emery cloth, cleaning up all the rust so it sits real nice in the rear diff case. So, and as you can see, you guys remember how this one lastly looked. Now keep in mind, I haven't really hit the emery cloth or nothing. I just cleaned it up real shiny, real nice there. So I got rid of that little bit of surface rust that was on there. There wasn't too much on these, so I'm kind of thankful for that. So we're going to go ahead, and again, if you guys remember, I said there's this little container for the little parts. So just for the heck of it, I'm going to call those spacers the little parts. And we're going to just take that, drop it in there. So that's all good, it's out of the way. Now, keep in mind though, that the one that has this weird style circumference to it, okay, is going to go on the side with the screws. So this one here, with almost like the U shape, okay, like a U, is going to go on the side of the rear diff case with the screws. It cannot go on the other side. You can't flip it over. It will not mount in the rear diff, okay? So next, we're going to come over here for this other bearing cup. Slide that one off. And like I said, sometimes you don't get this lucky, guys. Sometimes they're so rusted you can't even slide them off. So there's a little bit of grime buildup in that one. You can kind of see it. It's not all that bad. But again, we are microfiber here, so why not, right? Just kind of clean it up like that. kind of like, almost like you're wearing a ring. Just spin it left to right, back and forth. And you're just going to basically spin it 180, left and right, left and right, left and right. And it's going to clean up that inner race. Clean up all that nasty grime, dirt, sand, grease that's not needed. So, gonna go and see, you can see how much cleaner that is now, guys. All that inside that bearing race is nice and clean now. There's no issue. There's no grime. There's no dirt. There's no sand. It's more stuff you don't have to worry about, especially when you're building a rear diff, brand new parts and everything. You definitely don't want to deal with that. So, we got that done. I'm going to take that piece again, put that in there. And remember, the one with the U, like I said, guys, is going to go on the side of the diff with the screws. So, we're going to take that, put that in there. Now, excuse me for one sec, guys. I've been talking a lot, so I'm going to get a drink here real fast. Alright. So, now, we have our rear diff. Okay? There's 4 screws there. There's nothing on the opposite side, right? So, we're going to go and take these 4 screws out here. Now, do not lose these screws, okay? Do not strip these screws. They are very hard to get out if you strip them. I have done it previously years ago, and it's a nightmare because when you try to cut it, those screws, keep in mind, are right by the gear. So, being that they're right by the gear, when you're making your cut, it's almost impossible to be able to get that cut without hitting a little bit of that gear. You're about to the point where you just want to throw your differential, and you just want to basically say, forget it, I'm getting a new one. You don't want to deal with it, etc., etc. So, when you do it, we're going to this T-handle again, and we're going to lightly undo these. So we're going to take this here, and we're actually going to double check that, because it's not that size there. So actually I grabbed the wrong one, so I'm going to grab the smaller one. You can hear it crack. When you hear it crack like that, don't worry, you did not break the screw at all. You actually just basically broke the screw loose. So, but I don't really like the way that one's sitting there, guys, because it looks like it's a little bit smaller. So we're going to go ahead and get a little bit different of an Allen head here. I thought maybe it might have been that one, but I think it's off maybe by like not even an inch. So I got these guys right here. These are actually hardened Allen heads, and these as well are from DDM. So these are really, really good to look into. Hopefully I have the right one, which I'm pretty sure I do. Yep, there we go. So we're going to take this guy here, and I'm just using this just because it's a handle that I have access to right now. And you're just going to kind of put pressure on it, and you're going to push in with your, like, your elbow there, and just kind of lift out when you do it. Main reason why I do that is because you can overturn these screws. Basically what I mean by overturn these screws is when you get the Allen head screw in there, even though it fits like it should, you have the problem of it wanting to almost strip out that thread at the head of the screw. So you really, really, really don't want to deal with that. And you don't really need the long one like this. It's just because what I have in my box right now. So just for the sake being. Now, these are definitely screws you don't want to lose. These are screws that you don't want to get mixed up and anything else. So, again, we're going to come to... Yep, almost forgot to put those in there. So, these are actually to the bottom of that shock tower. So, see, I almost forgot my own step, but I remembered. So, gonna come over the one across from it. Again, take your wrist, push in, and then when you do that, it's gonna loosen. Again, guys, if you don't know which way to go, go counterclockwise, lefty, loosey, righty, tighty. That's all you gotta remember. Now, with some parts on our losi, it is backwards thread. Instead of going right tight, it's opposite. So left is tight, etc. So that is actually going to be on where the shock mounts to the A arm. That is actually different. So again, you can see that these screws here are real thin, but yet they're really long. So these are definitely size specific. To the rear differential, again, kind of take your palm like this, put your differential casing on an angle, and just kind of push it in once, get your workout. So, like I said, you could use a 12-volt impact, but if you guys do, that's on you. I wouldn't do it, just because you can strip these out very, very easily. And you don't want to try and cut a slash mark for a screwdriver of how close you are into the gear. It is not fun. I would not chance it. So that's your third screw. So we're going to look at the rear diff right now. So you see I got those 3 screws out. One to the left, one to the right, one to the bottom. So we got that one left at the top. Now keep in mind, you don't really want to keep this on an angle when you're doing the last screw, because there's fluid in here. It comes out and it's very nasty. So I'm gonna go and unloosen that one there. Once you get to about where it's pretty loose, you can put your rear diff like that, standing up, and hold one side almost like you're holding the pop can. Like I said, it's kind of nice when you have a longer Allen head like this, because you can just rotate your wrist. And like I said, you're more than welcome to use your 12-volt impact if you want, but with my experience on the screws and how they're made, I just wouldn't chance it. So this is going to be the 4th and last screw that we're taking out from our rear diff. So we got those 4 screws aside here. And just because we're doing so much right now with our rear diff, we're going to, right now, we're actually not going to put them in this case right here, because we are swapping over completely to this new billet Team Hoonage rear diff casing. So, but when we take this apart, before I tell you guys, you're always going to want to take it apart with the 4 holes that you just can see now. We took out those screws facing up, because what it is, there's a gear that sits in here, and that gear sits in through on this centerpiece here. Okay, this drive cup goes in through that gear. Then when this drive cup goes in, there's a pin about this long. That pin goes through, it sits down, the gear sits on top, and it's locked in. Okay, so you have to keep in mind there's a lot of fluid in here. So we're gonna make sure that you don't have this wobbly or nothing like that. Make sure you have it on something solid. So even if you have it on a piece of wood or anything like that, make sure you have it solid, it's held, and it's not going to rock back and forth. So we're going to pull the gear straight up and just off like that, because there is another big gear on top of here. And let's hopefully, for the, it's looking pretty good so far. So let's make sure hopefully that he, maybe he put some good fluid in here. We're going to swap it out anyway to what I'm running here, but maybe it won't be as bad. But you won't know until you open it up, guys. So we're just going to kind of wiggle it back and forth, left and right. And pick it up straight there. And again, this is some nasty, nasty stuff. So you're really just going to want to try and get all that diff fluid off as much as you can. So if you can, kind of dab it just a little bit. Alright, so you can see here all that fluid in there. It's been rammed for a while. Diff fluid looks pretty dirty, like really dirty, almost like a solid brown color. So you can tell that it wasn't just done. It was still rammed pretty bad, but it looks pretty solid. Here's that gear at the top that I told you guys about. That gear sits on top of the spider gear assembly. So we're actually going to take this, and just for the sake of being, we're actually going to set this here. It's nice and solid and out of the way. I'm going to double check to make sure I don't see any tears in the gasket. Hopefully I don't see any tears, even though I do have a rear diff gasket kit and everything, but hopefully I won't have to use it. So actually what you're going to do is take a little tiny flathead screwdriver, and you just kind of want to go around this gasket. Doesn't look like I see any tears. And just for the heck of it, since you're gone this far, take that little flathead and kind of push on that gear a little bit. You're going to wiggle it upwards, and you're going to notice that, just to double check yourself, and then you're actually going to want to make sure that you put all these parts on something clean. So obviously my bench has some metal shavings and whatnot, so we really don't want to put nothing on like that. So I'm going to take this little clean microfiber that I know nothing's on, and I'm going to take this gear and I'm going to put it face down. Okay? Then I'm actually going to take, again, I'm going to take my flathead, and if you look here, there's a little tiny pin there. Not a very big one, but big enough. So take this little flathead, and you're just going to slide it to the side. Don't lose this pin, guys, because if you do, you're up the creek. And you definitely don't want to do that. Take your little pliers here, wiggle it side to side. Normally you don't have to use pliers this big, but it's what I had. So that pin right there, you go ahead and set that pin to the side on a nice clean microfiber. Now, the next thing you're going to notice, you can actually pull out your drive cup now. So you're going to hold your gear like this, kind of wiggle it left to right. And if you look, your drive cup, it's pretty worn. Now, when you come to this part, okay, when that drive cup is kind of worn, there's two things you can do. One, you can upgrade drive cups. You can go to Fastlane RC off DDM, or you can upgrade to something different. There's many options out there. Or you could even put the stock losis back in. Or, if you're on a budget, and maybe you're racing, you're going through a lot of drive cups, you don't feel like going through and upgrading because you know you're going to wear them out real fast. You got to race maybe like almost every other week. So, it's going to, you know, it's just going to put wear and tear on these. So, what you can do is just basically pull them out, swap sides. So take your right one, put it on your left side, take your left one, put it on your right side. So you can do that as well. Now, when you do take your drive cup out, okay, there's this washer. You can see that washer sliding. And that washer is actually a shim, okay? That shim right there. So we're going to take that and set it to the side in that clean microfiber. And if you look here, there's a orange O-ring right there. That orange O-ring you always want to inspect to make sure there's no tears, there's no rips. Now, some people say, how do I know? How do I know that there is no tears, no rips? Now, you can really see one thing that Losi did that is really smart. They made the O-ring bright orange. One of the things I did make it why is because you can see if there's a cut or if there's a tear or a rip of any sort really easily. Now this one, I'm looking it over and I looked at the gasket already. It seems to be in really good shape. It actually looks like, it looks fairly new. It looks like somebody replaced it actually. So we're gonna go ahead and leave that one alone. Same with the gasket. Looks like the gasket is actually in really good shape. It doesn't look like it's been torn off or anything prior. It actually looks like somebody replaced it. So we might have got lucky on this one, guys. So that's real clean here. So then we're gonna come to, hopefully I have another microfiber for you guys so I can show you. I might not have one, guys, but for now I might have think it might have. Nope, not that one. Here we go. Found it, guys. Sorry. I knew I had a clean one here. I just couldn't remember where I put it. Alright. There we go. Much better. Okay, so being that I got, you want to watch this O-ring though, it's still off. So you guys are going to be amazed at this, okay? You guys are going to get a kick out of this. So look at that bearing right there. Do you see how all that dirt is there? That dirt is really, really bad. Watch this. Wait till you guys see how much dirt is just going to fall off that bearing. Hey, look. It's regular size.